I have never felt more scared in my life of someone to be in a room with someone. And I knew that
Have you ever heard of wounded narcissism?
Oh, no, I have not.
That rings a bell?
No.
Well,
wow, we got a lot to talk about right there. For those that are wondering who that is, that's an ex-employee of Justin Trudeau who just basically did a massive expose with Jordan Peterson and how she was discriminated against, how she was wrongfully terminated, like a whole bunch of things, and how she was afraid for her own life and safety working for Justin Trudeau. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the video, but we're going to start off with the fact that lots of Trudeau exposés today. Trudeau's chief of staff is now back in the hot seat for being involved with the $400 million slush fund. Jagmeet Singh is spewing the same lies. And then Justin Trudeau's Liberals are doing new ad campaigns in order to please the rebel MPs that are saying they no longer have confidence in Justin Trudeau. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel and helps fight censorship here on YouTube. And without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start off with this slush fund expose here where Trudeau's staff, and let's take a look. Trudeau's chief of staff met with former Minister Baines just 48 hours before his testimony on his role in the $400 million green slush fund corruption scandal. Here we go.
Former Liberal Minister Baines, you were in Ottawa this past Sunday. When did you leave Ottawa?
I left Ottawa yesterday.
Okay, and while you were in Ottawa for approximately 3 days, did you meet with any government officials, elected or non-elected?
Yes, I did.
And who did you meet with?
I met with my former colleagues, Mark Holland, Gary Nandasangri, and Omar Al-Gabra. We were celebrating Mark Holland's 50th birthday.
Okay. Did you meet with any non-elected officials?
I met with the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister, Katie Telford, and Andrew Bevan.
Okay. And meeting with Katie Telford and Andrew Bevan, did you discuss the content of your testimony today?
No, I did not.
Were you provided any material from Katie Telford or Andrew Bevan or any other non-elected official or elected official to refresh your memory with respect to evidence that you're giving today?
No, I did not receive such information.
This is now your third appearance at this particular committee to discuss your involvement in the SDTC Green Slush Fund. Are you to inform this committee and Canadians that given the passage of time, you were not provided, nor did you seek any material to aid you in the recollection of important details with respect to your failed ministerial responsibilities to SDTC? Is that what you want this committee and Canadians to believe?
If, just to clarify, you're referring to my trip to Ottawa?
I'm talking about through all the times that you've appeared, not just your recent 3-day sojourn in Ottawa. I'm talking about in advance of all of your appearances. Have you not received or have you not sought out material to aid you in your testifying?
No, the information that exists is in the public domain with the Auditor General's report, for example.
We have learned in the past former government officials have been paid with taxpayer dollars to prepare for upcoming committee meetings, even while they were being briefed by government officials. Former Liberal Minister Baines, has the government paid you in any capacity to be here today and the former 2 appearances at this particular committee?
Could you repeat that again? That
How much has the government? How much has the government paid you, sir, for your time testifying today, preparing for today, and the other 2 appearances at this committee? How much? Just the number, please.
0.
I don't think that he's in a good position right there. I feel like Uncle Brock is going to take care of him. Uncle Brock is really, really good with those committee meeting hearings. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about that. Lots of fishy stuff going on. Lots of fishy stuff going on within government. I don't know. It all stinks. Now let's take a look at Melanie Joly and where she is asked on who she's gonna or who she supports, who she'd rather win in the American elections, and she kind of refuses to answer.
Canadians seem to, according to polls, trust Mr. Poilievre to better manage that relationship under any future president, including Mr. Trump. What is your counter argument to that?
Well, first and foremost, all eyes are on the U.S. right now, and I'm getting ready, as other ministers, as the Prime Minister, to make sure that we can manage this situation, this relationship that is existential to us, and we will do so. We will be ready, and until then, I'm having conversations with Democrats, having conversations with Republicans, just doing my job as a diplomat. And we know very much that lots of Canadians are preoccupied, but at the same time are preoccupied and hopeful.
How do you think it's going to go?
So, well, of course, Tonda, every journalist in the country asked me that question, and I will just basically say that we will respect what the American people will decide, and we'll be ready.
Do you have a bet at home?
There was a lot of photos circulating on X the other day where they were saying they were Canadians, they supported Donald Trump, and they crossed the border to vote because in America, in certain states, at least you don't need to show any form of ID to vote, which is crazy. Because if you think about it, you have to have an ID, a membership card to go to Costco, but you wouldn't have to have a ID to vote for your country. Kind of crazy. But now let's take a look at Jagmeet Singh here on whether or not he'll support the black.
New Democrats I believe that you should be able to have a good job. And that job should be able to let you find a home that you can afford and have a fridge full of groceries. And if you need health care, it should be there for you when you need it, wherever you live, and you shouldn't have to put it on your credit card. Sadly, that is not how things are right now. People are feeling really squeezed when they try to buy their groceries, can't find a place to call home. And healthcare more and more is causing you to pay out of pocket, or it's just simply you have to wait forever to get it. And the biggest threat to our vision for a better future are conservative cuts. And now the Bloc wants to help King Cut himself, Pierre Poilievre, cut the things that you need. Cut your pensions, cut healthcare.
That's not true. The only thing Pierre Poilievre is going to cut is Liberal and NDP jobs. Now let's take a look at what is going on with this this new Liberal tactic, where they're basically going to be making new ad campaigns to satisfy the rebels to keep them on board.
Faced caucus today for the first time since a large group of disgruntled MPs aired their grievances over his leadership. CTV's Rachel Aiello is here. And Rachel, how did it go today? And what about the talk of a secret ballot?
Sandy, while Prime Minister Justin Trudeau didn't take as much time to reflect on his leadership as certain Liberal MPs would have liked, today he seemed to satisfy some by sharing his campaign strategy with caucus. Justin Trudeau faced his MPs for the first time today since rebuffing calls from 24 of them for him to step aside. Heading in, some Liberals were still pushing for a secret ballot vote on Trudeau's leadership.
And I think the question should be asked to the Prime Minister if he supports a secret ballot, and if not, why not?
Others said they wanted clarity on how Trudeau intends to turn the party's fortunes around.
What's the plan to win the next election?
Mr. Bevan. Behind closed doors, new Liberal National Campaign Director Andrew Bevan presented MPs with an election readiness plan, which includes launching new ads soon to draw a contrast with the surging Conservatives.
It's definitely the right step forward. It's just a matter of, now it's about implementation.
In a recent fundraising blast to Liberal loyalists, Bevin vowed to build a winning campaign that re-elects Justin Trudeau and even more Liberal MPs.
I think everyone has total confidence in our campaign director.
The Liberal campaign lead's message seems to have blunted some, but not all of the chatter around ousting Trudeau.
I've been through 5 leaders. This is my 5th leader. Most of the time they're unpopular, but we still manage to win.
And I think there's a lot of people that are still looking for some answers.
Those backing the Prime Minister say he's proven himself to be a strong campaigner before. But this pollster says it will take more than new ads and a unified caucus to have a chance in the next election.
There is still time for the Liberals to be more competitive, but it's going to be very difficult for them to overcome change regardless of what happens.
Trudeau may still...
I mean, yeah, technically there is still a chance for them to be competitive, but for them to have an actual chance at toppling the sheer popularity that the Conservatives, but more specifically Pierre Poilievre have, that just seems almost not even in the playing cards. Not even like a miracle sports movie could pull off this. And I think that there's just too much damage that has been done and caused by Justin Trudeau. But now let's take a look at a interview where one of these rebel MPs or one of the MPs actually talk about how they're going to be doing their ads.
What I saw today could only be better if I'd written it myself. No, I got answers today that I really, really like. Now, the nature of those answers, et cetera, of course, have to stay inside caucus because, you know, when you're talking about things moving forward, you obviously don't want your competition to know what you're up to.
So I think if I remember correctly, last week you had primarily wanted to find out what might change going forward, what the proposition to voters is, if it is in fact a change election that would keep your party in office. Do you feel like you have an answer to that question?
I think there's a framework that addresses what I was looking for quite nicely, actually, yes.
And do you feel that is a sentiment shared by your colleagues?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. You know, everybody leaves a room like that processing information, and we talked about this last time. You know, I can only speak for myself, and as I say, I was really pleased by what I heard. You know, I think that you and media will be interested in things that will be coming out, and I think our friends over on the Conservative side will have a few things to be worried about.
So let me ask you, what is in the public domain then? Because I understand your point about not being able to share the details of what was discussed. There has been reporting already that there will finally be some ads. Is that something that you support?
Well, I think we do need a story to tell, and in fact, that kind of dovetails into the kind of things that I hope to be talking about a lot more. I mean, while everything was happening last week, you know, we saw interest rates fall, we saw the you know, the inflation fall, we saw job numbers for a second month in a row exceed expectations. So there were a lot of very good fundamental pieces falling into place last night economically, and as we discuss things at home, you know, with our constituents, we're still really, you know, acutely aware that the cost of housing, the cost of food, et cetera, are continuing to weigh down on people. And it's universally accepted that, you know, especially government has to do something about that. Opposition, of course, can make all kinds of, you know, promises and premise as they wish, but it does fall to the government to handle these issues that are really important to people. And I think going forward, you can expect to see some steps taken.
Interestingly, the messaging, I think, from your government, and in particular at the cabinet level thus far, has been we are doing things. Canadians just don't realize how much we are doing for them on those very issues that you point to. Is that message going to change?
Well, I think the fundamental thing, and it's something that, you know, in our discussions outside of caucus that we have, is that people will tend to forget government programs very shortly after they're brought in. And certainly there should be, in our view, an effort to remind people of, in fact, what the government has done so far, because that sets the table for what you and I talked about in our conversation last week. It sets the table for, well, what's next? Right? And that's...
Will there be an answer provided to that question? Because thus far, I think it's fair to say there hasn't been.
Well, it's something that a bunch of us are looking for.
Okay, there you go. So the clock is kind of ticking right now, and it's a bit of a race between what is going to happen next. The Bloc should really try to put forward that motion of non-confidence, and Pierre Poilievre should be almost pressuring the Bloc, out in public or behind closed doors to put that forward, because it seems like Justin Trudeau may actually be able to repair the relationships within the Liberal caucus. And if those Rebel MPs are feeling satisfied with Justin Trudeau's leadership and the direction that the Liberal Party is heading in, then chances are that we are not going to see a fall election. Who knows what the new year will hold? We still have obviously the scheduled federal election at the end of 2025, but it's a bit of a pressure tactic now, and I hope Pierre gets them moving, because it seems like time's really ticking. And now let's take a look at Justin Trudeau's ex-employee and how he really mismanaged that entire relationship and put the fear of God into this woman's life.
I have never felt more scared in my life of someone to be in a room with someone. And I knew that happened.
Wounded narcissism?
Oh, no, I have not.
Rings a bell?
No.
Well, beware of it. Seriously.
All right. So you saw that clip in the intro. Let's take a look at a little bit more of an in-depth analysis into this podcast here. This can be found on Jordan Peterson's website, or his YouTube channel, by the way.
I was very clear for all of the reasons that we discussed before, feeling tokenized, not getting the support of the prime minister, just being very much marginalized within a Liberal, which is it makes me so, it is so upsetting, because it's one thing to say, you did some missteps, but I felt duped by a party that I really thought understood what it meant to be center, understood what it meant to have equity and justice, what it meant to have those things, and to be disenfranchised by them because I wanted more for the people that I serve was disenfranchising for me.
It's kind of crazy, because the Conservatives obviously right and Liberals obviously left, but the pendulum has shifted in such drastic ways that the Conservatives are kind of right of center. Like Conservatives are very centrist right now. Some things socially a little bit more left, a little bit more progressive, right? Like the support of Ukraine, the warmongering and all that stuff, things that I don't agree with that they are doing. But nonetheless, like right now, the Conservative Party, it's not like the Republican Party. It's not right wing. Like we don't really have that in Canada. So this woman is saying that, that she was searching for the centrist party. She thought that the Liberals were that. No, not even close. They are so far radical left that anyone who is a Liberal 20 years ago, 15 years ago, does not recognize the Liberal Party and the Liberal values right now. It's just so crazy how drastic of a change that a party can make under one leader.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, well, definitely.
That is the word. Thank you very much. That is actually the word. Betrayal. And so I called the prime minister and I said, look, I'm not running again. I didn't even have to give him a reason. I said, I'm not running again. It's 4 years. I'm not getting a pension. I'm not getting anything. I just don't want to do this. He said, well, that was the same day that Jody Wilson-Raybould had stepped down. He couldn't have two women of color leave at the same day.
That's what he told you. Really?
Like, dude, that's not my problem.
That was his first response to.
So somebody, another person of color left, and Trudeau was not allowed to let her go in the same day because that would have been two people of color leaving. Justin Trudeau pretends that he's a feminist. He pretends that he's, a very progressive person, but he's a freaking closeted. He's a closeted racist. And he's a closeted misogynist. He's a horrible, horrible person. And sometimes it leaks out of the closet. Sometimes we get to see the true him. And in this instance right now, thankfully, thanks to this podcast and Jordan Peterson, right, we're finding out more and more about this. But this is stuff that we've been able to speculate on, and now we're getting full confirmation on.
You're
yes.
Okay, so no, I'm going to play psychologist here for a minute. Okay, because
Yes,
that's really not,
please.
that's seriously not good, right? Because if he was a wise man and if he was a mature man, he would have understood that you divested yourself of your business. Your life took quite a turn, and that even if you two didn't get along, the fact that you'd been in government for only 4 years and you were leaving without running for re-election, without a pension, meant you were going back to square one in many ways. And so the first thing he should have said, even if he would have been somewhat truly self-aware and still putting his own interests first, he should have at least had the bloody sense to act as if he cared about what you were telling him. The fact that his first response was, I'm dead serious about that. Like, even if he was faking it, you know, even if he was a wise faker, the first thing he should have done was said like something like, well, you know, I know we've had our differences. I really appreciate your service. You put an awful lot on the line for this. It's really unfortunate it didn't work out. Is there anything I can do for you to make your departure more straightforward? I wish we could have worked together more.
Yeah, like Jordan Peterson is just so much better than everybody else with words. But to sum it up, I mean, in my own words, Justin Trudeau's an absolute narcissistic piece of garbage. He's a racist. He discriminates against everybody, and he's only after more power and more money. That's why he plays the field of being progressive. That's why we are in such a radical left-wing government right now, is because he's pandering to all the left-wing people out there, all the different groups, and just caving into everything. Like, that's craziness what's going on. You can burn a Canadian flag, but if your tire goes on a pride crosswalk, you're going to jail for like years. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's craziness. I'm not suggesting we need to all be able to drive our tires on pride crosswalks, but the way Justin Trudeau has managed this country, and he's morphed liberalism, what it used to be 20 years ago, was somewhat respected to what it is now. It's hard to grasp because it's so radical. And I feel so bad for this woman who had to have the unfortunate experience of working for Justin Trudeau. And I mean, I don't know if Dr. Jordan Peterson is considered a counselor, but or I guess he is a therapist to a certain extent. That's a free therapy session. So anyways, I've shared my opinion. I would absolutely love to know yours. And if you do want to see the rest of that podcast, I highly recommend you go over to Jordan Peterson's YouTube channel and check it out. Her name is Selena Cesar Chavanez. So go check that out and show him some support, because it gets crazy in depth. That's the end of the video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, I hope you consider dropping a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and we'll see you in another one. Bye for now.